Like,
mostly the people who say narcissist are narcissists themselves.
Every damn time. Without an exception to the rule, every damn time.
I see so many girls who are like, my ex was a narcissist, the other ex was a narcissist, all these exes are narcissists, right?
Yes,
and it's like, why? Because they didn't do the things, they didn't tend to my feelings.
They didn't tend to my feelings, they challenged
because you are responsible
for
for your feelings. Like you're making another person responsible for your feelings. And we are responsible for ourselves, accountability. We can have emotional fitness. It's like you're a narcissist because you're not doing all the things I want you to do. Who's the narcissist here, right?
Yeah.
They don't like the feeling that comes up, so they call these psychological terms that they've learned in the last 10 years from TikTok and Instagram. The language of your brain is behavior, which means if you're like, oh, I want to fix this anxiety, I need to fix this, the brain's like, oh, you love fixing? You love fixing anxiety? That's your favorite thing because you show me with your behavior that you love fixing anxiety. So it's basically the brain is an algorithm. It looks at what you engage with. And because you are doing behaviors around anxiety, jealousy, frustration, depression, the brain's like, oh, you love fixing these feelings?
You like feeling
you like fixing this. Let me give you more things to fix. Step into the uncertainty.
Step into the uncertainty.
Uncertainty is life.
I love that. Uncertainty is life.
Yeah. And we're trying to control it. But the less we control it, I think the more beautiful it can be. And we can experience us in the progression and find out about us. But if we stay in here trying to control, we take away a lot of the gifts.
Mr. Starr.
Naftali.
A pleasure having you.
Let me stretch my tongue.
That's a good one. We could bring in the Matthew McConaughey thing that he
let's do the, what does he do?
With a common denominator.
We're gonna do this the whole. This is all that this podcast. 1 hour going viral.
1 hour.
Just this.
Yeah, just that.
And people use it as ASMR.
So I was really curious how you help your clients, and I know that you come from a long background of not only helping people out in their relationships with their traumas, but OCD particularly.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And that was your big hump.
That's right.
That you've learned to navigate in your life.
What people don't understand is everybody has OCD to a degree, because OCD is really just doing compulsions, which means you get diagnosed at a certain degree of compulsions, but let's say, for example, you wake up in the morning, a feeling of boredom comes up or an uneasiness, and you're like, oh, I don't want to feel this boredom, and I grab the phone to scroll to get rid of this boredom. This is a compulsion. This is how you hurt your mental health. And the problem is, the more you're trying to fix something, the more you're trying to fix a feeling, the bigger those excessive feelings get, because the language of your brain is behavior, which means if you're like, oh, I want to fix this anxiety, I need to fix this, the brain's like, oh, you love fixing? You love fixing anxiety? That's your favorite thing because you show me with your behavior that you love fixing anxiety. So it's basically the brain is an algorithm. It looks at what you engage with. And because you are doing behaviors around anxiety, jealousy, frustration, depression, the brain's like, oh, you love fixing these feelings?
You like feeling
you like fixing this. Let me give you more things to fix. I always like to use the analogy of the house. Imagine you have like too many chairs in your house. Imagine here in this house would be like too many chairs. You can't even invite people anymore. And you're like, oh no, I have to get rid of these chairs. There's too many chairs. So you start throwing chairs out the window. You start throwing chairs out the house. And the brain looks at it and it doesn't think...
It identifies with the behavior. Isn't that really wild? Most people don't know that.
It doesn't think that you want to clear out the chairs. It looks only at your behavior, which is you throwing chairs out the house. Just this movement. And your brain's like, oh, you love throwing chairs out the house, Naftali. This is your favorite hobby.
This is really beautiful that you're telling me about this, and I was talking to you earlier about this struggle particularly. I think you're 100% right. And this is because I wanted to steer the conversation into relationships to where I think we both really come
just
from
wanted
that
to finish the analogy because
Continue.
I think it brings a lot of value. The brain only watches, oh, you throwing chairs out the house, your behavior, you throwing chairs out the house. And the brain's like, oh, you love throwing chairs out the house? That's your favorite hobby? And the brain runs to IKEA, builds some chairs, brings them back into the house, or gets the chairs from the lawn back into the house, and you're like, what the fuck? Brain, why are you bringing in the chairs? And the brain's because you love it. You love throwing chairs. Now substitute trying to fix chairs, trying to throw chairs with emotions and thoughts. The more you hate on emotions and thoughts, the more you hate on the thoughts that you mostly hate on. The brain's like, oh, you love this? You're playing with this toy? Let me bring you more
the things
thoughts.
that you interact with are the ones that your brain is going to
It's
typically
it's
associate as the thing that you want more of.
It's exactly like a TikTok algorithm. Let's say you only watch like penguin videos. TikTok algorithm gives you more penguin videos.
Yeah, okay, interesting. So that's very, I love that one. That's totally beautiful.
Yeah.
And so now you could take the same thing in relationships. People really, they enjoy what's familiar to them, not exactly what's constructive to them, right? Why is it I keep dating guys like this? Why is it I keep dating girls like this? Well, the thing that you're interacting with specifically, just by interacting with that consistently, tells your brain, I like this. Let me interact with this more. And then, of course, you interact with it more and more until eventually you're enjoying that, but you haven't asked yourself the billion-dollar question, which is, what about me enjoys this toxic cycle? And there's comfort in that. Like, you were talking about the iPhone and, it gives you a feeling of control. And typically, and this is actually something I've talked about in my men's lecture today, I'm curious your thoughts on it, is that intimacy, psychedelics, and experiencing a connection with somebody, all of those things have one thing in common. You are not in control. You are going to be exposed to parts of yourself, and your ability to receive what you experience is going to be based off the foundation that you have, the system of beliefs that you have about life. And so I was curious how, in your professional work, how you've helped people in their relationships with this very particular thing, right? Because I'll take myself personally. I have a very particular habit in my relationships, and I also have a very particular struggle. It's like the girls are very sexually intense, very intelligent, very emotionally intelligent, but holy shit, untethered. Meaning like nothing, no value, particularly anchoring them. And I think that's problematic due to our culture for a lot of reasons. We do not have any values in our culture. We're completely disconnected from them. And we're exposing people to more human consciousness without any system of values to support human consciousness. So you're pretty much just rewarding people that are more capable than others. And of course, they have no guidance or anything to direct themselves towards. So they're by default going to be destructive, egocentric, or narcissistic. And so I wanted to see how, taking that whole situation and working with your clients, what would you do to really help a client who's been stuck in a cycle? And in a lot of ways, I even see myself in a very similar cycle, because when you said you enjoy it, I was like, that's exactly what I felt. I felt that putting that stuff away was more challenging to me internally than to continue interacting with it. And I've experienced that through my life as I've grown, but now I'm reaching, it's those moments where you got to let go.
Yeah, so the biggest problem that I see in relationships in society is people being reactive, which means they're reactive to their patterns. Mm-hmm. They're reactive to the feelings of jealousy, anxiety, fear of losing the person. Mm-hmm. And they don't understand that they are reactive based on something that happened in their past where they were hurt, and now they're trying to control something. Mm-hmm. So the reactivity is the problem, because again, the brain is like an algorithm, and them reacting, trying to fix the feeling, trying to get relief from the feeling through certain behaviors. As an example, if someone has the feeling of jealousy coming up, and they grab the phone to check on their partner's Instagram to see if they're doing appropriate things. They're trying to fix that feeling. They're being reactive. But what they don't understand is they're making it worse. They get emotionally weaker.
Yeah, because they're emotionally training themselves to avoid the emotion and also reinforce the worst possible habit.
Think of it like this. Think of it like the gym. Mm-hmm. All emotions are connected. Like boredom, uneasiness, anxiety, frustration, jealousy, abandonment issues, but some emotions have more weight. So for example, for you, boredom is probably like 20
say more weight based off the things that you've experienced in your life.
You're so reactive to it, it's so strong to you. Mm-hmm. For example, boredom is probably for you not as strong as maybe jealousy or abandonment issue or fear of losing in the relationship. So think of boredom like 20 pounds in the gym, right?
Yeah.
Think of abandonment issues or fear of losing like maybe like 200 pounds or 400 pounds. It seems so strong. But the brain is holistic. So people always think in relationships, oh, I need to go to a relationship coach. I need to only think about relationships. Your brain is holistic. It's the reactivity in general that you're doing to emotions in life. And if you are not even able to train with the 20 pounds, with the uneasiness, the boredom, maybe the anger, how
So
are you
you're
going to be able
increasing.
to train with the fear of losing the person, the
Fear of
abandonment
rejection.
issues? So it's about people are reactive to their patterns, then they feed the patterns. But really, I promise you this, Naftali, most relationships are not relationships based on love, they're relationships based on emotional addiction. Because the more you're reactive to these hot and cold games, to these patterns, to trying to fix anxiety, jealousy, by doing behaviors around, by trying to stalk the person, by controlling the person, the more of an emotional cocktail is created, like an addiction, because it's the same when someone drinks alcohol to fix a feeling. It creates an addiction over
I
time.
think that's very rich.
And then it's an emotional addiction, but it's not love.
It's not love.
Two people trying to suck feelings out of each other,
Till they
but it's
got nothing
not two
left.
people. So it's two people trying to, it's literally two people who are together to make their feelings feel better, to chase feelings, not two people who actually care about each other, because it's based on an emotional addiction. And most people mistake emotional addiction for love, you see?
Well, that's really rich. That conversation made me think of something here, because you spoke about jealousy. And it's something I make very, very clear, that it's a very healthy emotion to experience. It's not something that you should reject. And it's definitely not something that you should train and hide. It's something you should learn to express. There is something here, and because I really like this, I haven't heard this perspective with it. You know, I really come from the perspective of human nature and relationship with the shadow, right? Like, for example, I'll make it very clear to anybody that's watching this. Majority of people's love is not love. Love is an ideal. Not only does it take a shit ton of work, it takes a serious investigation of yourself and these attachments that you have, that you're deeply familiar with. And I had this interaction with one of my friends the other day, and I realized that the way that I would interact with people that are close to me when they're in very vulnerable positions is to, hey, get up, don't do that, do this, hey, that's hurting you, stop, right? And of course, you know, I got that from my folks, and then now I have that on me, and that's what I use on people closest to me. And I noticed how if we aren't aware that we are learning to love, we will never question our own behavior around the people we love. And that's when I realized, I was like, wait, what's happening here? There's more distance between us. Of course, you know, confrontation being at the forefront of everybody's life. If they want to create healthy relationships, you're going to have to learn how to confront people, especially when you're feeling and experiencing the not so enjoyable. And it's a really beautiful thing that you can help people interact with the not so, like, you know, the 20-pound weights, and then work your way up to the, of course, the bigger ones, the 300-pound weights, the jealousy, and even, you know, the heaviest weight of your life, love itself, being able to express that. That's not an easy thing to express. I really mean that just due to the evolution of human nature and humanity as a whole, love is something that's very, very prominent now that we can have access to, which is why these conversations are so important. So I was bringing up my friend's situation because something came to mind, and it was realizing, of course, we had this confrontation with each other. A lot of emotions came up on both parties, on my party, and this is the thing, it's healthy to express. Anger, jealousy, sadness, you name it. The whole spectrum of human emotions is healthy to express. And not having that as a belief system is also going to be the thing that rejects you. And then once you reject yourself, you're going to find ways to cope, compartmentalize, and deal with the things that you feel and experience. And this is the one day and age where you have anything at your disposal to go ahead and completely cut yourself off. So I wanted to bring this up to you because I realized in this, we had distance in our relationship with each other. And being able to confront him, of course, we both opened up to each other. But at the end of it, I realized when I was trying to love him, I wasn't aware of how I wasn't. And also, this is a two-part game. It's not just so much one person. It's the person in front of you's ability to tell you how you trying to isn't working. So it's something we collectively create together. And then, of course, on the other side, there's love. But I realized this myself. It was like, whoa, this is my trained response when I get close to people. And for the first time, I mean this was actually just, was it Tuesday? Yeah, it was Tuesday. I genuinely was like, whoa, I get it now. I see why I engage in these patterns. I see why these things keep happening in my life. I, for the first time, got to realize that I am learning how to love. And if people accepted that, not that they immediately love the person, I think that love would be far more accessible to most people, because they would realize how a lot of their internal addictions, like you were saying, are going to be very, very visible when you look at how you treat the people around you. And so I think that was absolutely beautiful, how you really help people develop the emotional bandwidth for themselves.
Because as long as you're reactive to those patterns, you're actually not yourself. You're a slave to the brain. You're a slave to the trauma patterns. So you have to be yourself, you have to act based on your values. And that's what I help my clients to find.
Let's talk about
through
that.
the value garden.
So tell me about that. You work specifically with men?
Around 60% women, I would say, and 40% men. That's almost like pretty
When you
close.
coach them, not so much your audience.
Say it again?
You coach 60% women, 40% men?
Probably my audience is 60% women and 40% men, but I would say coaching would probably be like around 70% women and 30% men, around that. Pretty close to my audience.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
30% men?
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. So that's really wonderful. You were talking about guarding your values.
The value garden exercise.
Yeah, tell me about that.
So the value garden exercise was created by Mark Freeman, who also recovered from OCD. He recovered from OCD 12 years ago. And I added
like
to
you.
it 7 categories, right? So universal categories that all humans connect to, which are relaxation, creative expression, business/money, romantic relationships, family and friends relationships, physical fitness, and fun. And then we grow those values
It's quite divine.
with actions, like a garden. And you have those categories in your life, I have those categories in our life, and we look at what we want to grow proactively, independently from our reactions to the emotions and thoughts. And the more we do that, we show the brain proactively what we care about. But we have to do it mindfully, because you can do compulsions inside of your head and outside of your head, which means even if you still do those actions, but you're still spending time inside of your head, oh, how can I control that they love me? How can I control this or that? You're still feeding the patterns. That's why the moment-to-moment practice of mindfully acting on your valued actions over time is literally changing the algorithm of your brain.
Well, we spoke about that, and it was, you talk about how important it is to connect people to their values, especially when they coach.
That's right.
And it's like, well, that's very difficult when you live in a world where most people's values don't exist. Not only does it not exist in dating, it also doesn't exist in business. And I think that most people who've actually ran a business understand that to be true. And I said for people in dating nowadays, for certain, there is moral bankruptcy.
But it's
There is
because
no
they're
question
reactive
about
to their patterns.
So that's also, I think that's one part. I also think there's another part. I think the other part of not just reactivity to patterns, which is very true, I think a disconnect from values and a weaponization of them, because there's no necessity for them. Meaning, you don't connect to your values
I agree. Yeah.
if you hide behind them. Like, if I take my yarmulke, okay, congratulations, I'm Jewish, right? Now, for years of my life, I used to use that as a way to get the cute Jewish girl. Right? Did I actually really connect to wearing my yarmulke? And it's like, well, guess what? If I was at the bar and I saw a Jewish girl and had my kippah in my pocket, I put it on, right? And so that's the danger that we're dealing with now, because I've honestly mean this.
But then it's not a true value. It's literally a compulsion, because you
That
are
is a compulsion
trying to
in the name of the
fix
values.
you're trying to be validated by other people. You're chasing validation. And when you chase validation, you're not acting truly on your values. You're acting on the perception of other people. So when you chase validation, you're showing your brain, oh, you love chasing validation? How can I support you? I'm your best friend, the brain. Oh, I don't have arms to push you to chase validation. I don't have legs or tentacles. I have 3 things. I have emotions, thoughts, and bodily sensations. So if I give you more insecurity, you will chase more validation. So by actually chasing more validation, they create more insecurity, because the brain wants to support you in whatever you're doing. It doesn't judge you. It's an algorithm. It's like, oh, you love trying to...
Well, that's one part of being the brain, and I really think that that's... There's a lot of our circuits or habits, and I honestly think, bypassing, which is a lot of what you're talking about here, helping people interrupt a lot of those patterns, experience the emotion and do the same thing. You And then also, by the way, the one thing that your brain sees the most, which is your actions. It's like, for God's sake, if you're doing loser shit, your brain's like, I guess you like being a loser. Let's keep rewarding this, right? Oh, you keep going for really destructive women. Yeah, okay, keep going, you know? And then you have a habit that seeks that particular incident, get that high, hit that low, then get that high that you let it go. And that's what we're experiencing.
They're
a lot
reacting to emotions, right?
And so this is what I want to talk to you about, just to open up a little bit. Just personally. The importance of values in relationship to this, which is what I was talking about. If you do not have a system of values, when you have your own vices and your own habits and your own compulsions, you are more than lost. And I've noticed this for most people across the board. If you ask them, what are your values? They need to think about it like they've never been asked that question before in their whole life. Also, the beautiful part is, you can only ask that question to people when they stop running. When what stops running their soul.
Because they're brainwashed by society, right? That's why they didn't think about it. They just take what's cool on TikTok and Instagram as what gives them the validation from other people.
Yeah, it's sad. It's really sad. So I was noticing this myself. You know, even when I do my work, I could only imagine, because I believe, you know, freedom, love, connection, my big three. And of course, truth. Truth, where there's truth, there's those three things. And let's just show you how large truth is. You know, in a modern world of dating, the way that it looks like now, do you know how crazy it is that most people cannot identify their values and want to continue dating? Like as if, and I say this for men, if you do not have a vision or a plan for the woman you're with, it's not going to work. Not only will it not work, it's not enough that you like her, she won't respect you. Because there needs to be a longevity to what you have to offer, not just what you have to offer. That's a very, very big component for what women find attractive. And it's such a simple question, but it's one that has saved my life, especially in relationship to women. And that's the crazy part. I never would have thought I would have said this before, but if I did not have my system of values that I was raised with, and everybody has to identify their system of values. My own vices, and I just said this to this girl today that I met, and she was laughing. She's like, well, what made you want to do this? And I said it was either a porn star or a motivational speaker. And she laughed. She was like, what? I'm not sure I get it. And I said, well, you know, it's the same nature. Just what I directed it towards. And I mean, genuine kind of expression, vulnerable expression, great way to contextualize that with sex, right? And so, of course, I was always thinking about this when I was younger. If I did not have the system of values that was, one of them, of course, being authenticity, being able to represent the part of you that can have the most impact and could help the most people. Then I was like, wait, now I need to take all of this that I am and direct it towards that. Because I've noticed that you really can't help somebody with a compulsion. And you really can't help somebody who's struggling emotionally or doesn't have a community, for example. Because if you do have your system of values, no matter where you are in your life, you could at least interact with what you do value and how you are interacting and how there's a disconnect between the two. And then that helps people understand, like what you were saying, and I like the word you said, what do you do with trauma? You don't get rid of it?
You make it inactive.
You make it inactive, right? And it's like, well, another way to make it inactive is no longer let it be the thing that inhibits you. It's something you integrate into your life. And the integration, your brain sees what you do with the trauma. It now goes, wait, what are you doing? This was something that you used to protect yourself with. You're incorporating it in your life. Transformation.
But you said, correct me if I'm wrong, if that's what you meant, that you cannot help people with compulsions. I don't agree. You can help people with... Well,
I'm saying, a person with compulsions, without a system of values, you can help them identify their values by getting past their compulsions. But if for somebody who's listening and is not like, hey, I want to actively deal with my compulsions, this is something I really want to change in my life, well, then you have to ask yourself the other question. You have your compulsions in relationship to what?
You have your compulsions in relationship to what?
Yes, and that's the question you ask yourself. I have my compulsions, the things that I do, my behaviors, my habits. How does that conflict with my values? And then, how do I feel about how I betray myself every damn day about the things that I tell myself I believe in? When people hear that, that's typically when they put down the bad habits for a little. And so that's when they need to start taking the action.
So I think if you want to go from like the whole beginning, it starts with awareness. And there has to be an awareness that most people in society are completely identified with their patterns, which means they're identified with their thoughts and emotions. So it's almost like the thoughts, because they spend so much time on them, oh, I'm not good enough, I'm not ready yet, or the jealousy, it's like in front of their face and they believe that's them. And that's why I teach people to say, the thoughts say, I'm not ready yet, but I'm going to act anyway now in the direction of creating my content, creating my podcast, creating the things that I want, because I'm not those patterns. And the more you go in that direction, the more you make that inactive. But the first step is to show people cognitive diffusion, which is the differentiation between you and your brain, and to question if those thoughts that come in are actually you. And it's very common in OCD, intrusive thoughts, but people believe their thoughts that come in because the brain has an entire data bank of what you reacted to, you, Naftali, for the entire life that you've been alive. So it will give you anything you've been reacting to because it thinks it's useful. You've been reacting to it inside and outside of your head. So now...
Reacting to it and simultaneously rewarding it.
Yeah, you can say reacting to it, rewarding it. The brain is like, oh, this must be useful.
But it feels like an addiction. It's very, very powerful. It's not minimal.
That's right, but people overcome addictions.
Well, you could take this, of course, people do overcome addictions, and I mean, this is personally what I've done in my life.
It's not
you have
like
to integrate, though, and that's what I was saying. There's an integration aspect.
Yeah, it's not a black and white, it's a progress. It's like fitness. Mental health is not about fixing something. People always think, oh, I need to fix something. Mental health is actually the same way as physical health, about mental fitness, emotional fitness. And it's something that you train moment by moment. I helped thousands of people with ADHD, BPD, OCD, reactive in relationships. Say it again?
BPD is a big one.
It's still all of these labels. Give me any symptom right now on BPD. I can show you that any of those labels are based on compulsion, on trying to control feelings, on trying to control thoughts.
I absolutely agree with you. And I'll just throw it your way. The particular behavior of BPD, disassociation being one of them, especially when it's in relationship to emotions.
Yeah, disassociation?
Disassociation.
Yeah, you're trying to avoid feelings.
Yeah, it's very simple, right? When you look at it, you get rid of the terminology. You're like, wait, it's actually that simple.
Fuck the label. And people also get love for the label. Some people don't want to change because they get love for the label. They write it in their bio. They're like, I'm just ADHD. Oh, mom, I can't do homework. I have ADHD, right?
Yeah, and it's all a form of manipulation.
They don't want to. They're scared of failing, so they have this excuse their whole life. Oh, I have this, but it's really broken down. ADHD, the distraction, should I do this now? Should I do this now? It's reactivity thoughts, and you get thought more weakness, which means you're have less of a space, less of a strength in relationship to thoughts and emotions. And that goes in that one direction. You have no alternative. Your only alternative is to be okay with uncomfortable emotions and move in the direction of your valued actions, which over time, your brain gets used to the new things. There's so many people who said they have social anxiety, and when they suddenly had to work a job and had to answer calls and everything, it changed because their brain got used to it. Now that's the hard way to do it. There's a much easier way to do it, but the more you bring your brain, think of it like a little child that's screaming because it got hurt, it got bullied in childhood. The little child is screaming, it's like, no, we cannot move forward. They're going to judge us. You cannot make a podcast. You cannot make videos. And you're like, that's okay, I love you, and I take you along. And it's going to still screaming, but you cannot identify it with the little, with the little child.
With trauma, and that's actually a big thing I talk about, because I don't paint human beings in the best light. I just read enough history to understand that that's just not true about us. I think our capacity for evil is a tremendous realization and a massive, not even a psychological revelation. Its existence since the dawn of time. We are aware that we have the capacity for that. And so I wanted to take that particular thing because there is a very common thing, and it's actually one of the worst things in dating nowadays. It's the weaponization of trauma. I've had this happen. Because I've had this happen, condition on you, and I continue to do what I do, you need to tend to my trauma.
Yeah, that's so whack.
Not only is it whack, it's incredibly common.
It is common.
You can get the feeling of power, recognition, significance from a person, and you can condition them in the name of that trauma.
It's like you're a narcissist because you're not doing all the things I want you to do.
That's exactly what a narcissist is.
You're a gaslighter. I made videos about it. You're a gaslighter because you don't show me the world like I want to see the world.
Nice.
It's who's the narcissist?
You're challenging my values. You're a narcissist.
Who's the narcissist here, right?
Yeah.
They don't like the feeling that comes up. They don't like that they're power, so they call these psychological terms that they learned in the last 10 years from TikTok and Instagram. Back in the day, they would have just said, you're an asshole, you're a fuckboy. But then it changed. Oh, now we can be more psychologically manipulated because we have these
another mask
new
to hide behind.
It's another mask to hide. Exactly.
And that's the thing that I found was so interesting. You know, like taking personality traits and, you know, narcissism being one of the things that's thrown out the most. And I think you've said it really, really well. It's just like
mostly the people who say narcissist are narcissists themselves.
Every damn time. Without an exception to the rule, every damn time.
I see so many girls who are like, my ex was a narcissist, the other ex was a narcissist, all these exes are narcissists, right?
Yes.
And it's like, why? Because they didn't do the things, they didn't tend to my feelings.
They didn't tend to my feelings, they challenged
because you are
the things that I said.
responsible for your feelings. Like you're making another person responsible for your feelings. And like, they didn't make me feel safe. Like all kinds of things that we need to are responsible for ourselves, accountability. We can have emotional fitness. And even in the, what is called the red pill manosphere, where it's like, yeah, she's the squirrel and you're the tree and she can do whatever the fuck she wants to. No, she's also a human being. She can also develop emotional fitness.
I love the paradigms. You see, like, assuming this is how things are outside of reality.
Like hiding, women are just emotional. That's also hiding behind like another label.
Behind another label.
See so many amazing women. Like look at Layla Hormozi. She's Alex Hormozi's
great. You're inviting a confrontational conversation, but let's do it.
Husband. I love her. Yeah. She is emotionally fit. She's acting on her values.
I'm going to be honest with you.
She's leading a good team.
I don't think she's emotionally fit. I think that she's very intelligent. And of course, it's nothing to do with her. I think that a majority of women like her suffer in ways that you probably can't even imagine.
So tell me, like, make an argument about it. Why do you think she's not emotional? Not everybody's perfect. I agree.
Well, I wouldn't take her particularly, but I would take the archetype. I would take exactly that kind of woman. I work with a lot of women like this.
Okay.
They've spent their whole lives, they're in their 30s, they've been working, they've been really putting in an effort to not only be seen and recognized, but to be able to create that wealth for themselves. And I'll tell you one thing across the board, it takes away from what women really, really want.
But what is specific with Layla, for example?
Well, the most important thing in a woman's life is that she can build a relationship and have children with a man that she respects. And this is for women that I've worked with that are all multimillionaires, some of them wealthier than me. And they're calling me for one thing, how do I unfuck my life because of this thing that I've told myself that I wanted, that has disconnected me from my nature? I'm talking about the feminine essence. It's not me, I'm not making
But that's also another label. I'm not saying, probably in all society, it's good if women in general are more like maybe feminine, you can say. But that's mostly their desire. That's mostly their nature, if you want to say it like that. But there are women who are really good at creating things, even building businesses. And
well, that's not to say the least. But the question isn't questioning of whether or not women are good at those things. Of course, human beings.
But that's also the excitement a lot of times. Who's to say that this is not her excitement? Like, who am I to judge that she's building this big business with her husband?
I'm talking about the particular thing of emotional fitness. And so now that's a very, very important thing to establish here, is that that's probably not there for her. So I was just making that very clear.
Why? Because she has tremendous emotional fitness because she's not reactive to her emotions. She keeps acting on her values.
That's not exactly true. A lot of people are really good at repressing in the name of their values when the things that they really experience, they can't experience, because if they did, they wouldn't be seen the way that they want to be seen, which is their ego. I'm trying to do the opposite of what maybe perhaps you think I'm trying to say here, which is connecting to what people authentically connect to. For women particularly, in these kind of dynamics and these kind of relationships, it's a very, very difficult thing to expose yourself to that kind of stress and to interact with an intimate relationship. And this is, I mean, it's a whole different kind of conversation. I don't want to pick her particularly because, you know, that's just like, I don't know her situation. I'm talking about women in her situation that I have worked with that are in very, very similar places.
But everybody's different.
Everyone is different. So now this is the big distinction here. I'm not taking so much what people see. I challenge deeply what people present in the name of them being emotionally available. Like, for example, a majority of gurus you see on the internet.
Yeah, fake.
How many of them actually connect to their emotions?
But what do you mean by connecting to emotions? What do you mean by connecting to emotions?
If I take my identity, and my identity is how I need to be seen by others, that is the mask that I have that I am now attached to.
I agree.
When I have to be seen as, and you know, it's 007 James Bond, for example, right? Or I need to be seen as boss bitch. When I am seen for who I am not seen at all. And
I just want to show now. I just want to show it now. The Iron Man
we'll
mask.
bring out the Iron Man
Yes.
when we get there. You don't want to spoil the good stuff. We'll bring it out. We'll bring it out for the end. We'll bring it out for the end.
Your audience to connect to you. To connect to
beautiful,
your true
right?
self.
And so, by the way, that's a big thing. Let's do that. A lot of the time, the biggest limitation, and typically the thing that makes us feel the most shame in our life, is the identity that we need to have for others, not for who we truly are. It fundamentally challenges the very way by which you live your life, how you present yourself, and the absolute values that you have that allow you to take the action that represents you authentically.
But you have to ask yourself, what do you get for wearing the mask?
Well, that's also why was I wearing a mask? Why would I do this? For me, my whole life, and this is for a lot of women, they need to be seen as powerful, right?
Because you want to control the perception of others, and then you get validation and a chasing of happiness or other emotions that you like from you wearing the mask, which you think, but really you being insecure because you're scared.
That's it right there.
To show your true self.
I could say that for women for more than anything, is it costs women a lot more than it costs men to not be vulnerable. There's an absolute necessity for women to communicate when they want children, when they want to be married, how they need to be treated. And I'm not saying it's not for men. Of course, it's for men too, because you're going to be the one leading the way for that. And of course, who you truly are. And by the way, there's so much shame in relationship to femininity. A lot of women don't even know what that means. You throw out that term and most people are like, oh, does it mean maxi skirts and
well, you explain. I want to hear.
Femininity and masculinity are something that are very, very important conversations. And we're talking a lot about the psychodynamics of things. And I mean that's the stuff that I really love on an academic level. But these are the conversations that are difficult to have, and they need to be had with people. Feminine and masculine are in the image of the divine, meaning that they are things that we represent outside of its biological consequence. Right? Most people associate masculine to what? If I'm more masculine, I get more this, and this, recognition, power, approval, etc., esteem. For women, if I'm more feminine, I get this, and this. And then there it goes is the question, the thing that you propose that's absolutely essential to any kind of growth, which is awareness and a value. I promise you this. The question is, if you needed to be this feminine deity, this masculine man, assuming it never gave you any of the things that you so dearly desire, would you still be that? That's your values. That's how values work.
I think that's still acting based on, I don't think so. And we can agree to disagree because that's still acting on a label that was created. I think it's so much more true to follow go in the direction of the actions that you're interested in, that you want to grow, but not based on the reactivity to emotions and thoughts, but just based that you want to grow those. You are excited about those. Like, for example, you want to grow the actions of love with your children and with your wife.
So explain, what are you exactly disagreeing with? I want to understand that a little bit better.
I think because you were talking about that, maybe I understood this wrong, but that you want to act on this masculine type.
You want to connect to it. There's a value behind it. And this is like, how do you know something is real?
Why? Like, what is it that is needed in that archetype?
I think that's beautiful that you said. I think that's beautiful.
That's
that
my
you
question.
Said that. Because it is true about you as a man. Not because it's a fantasy that you can get access to and a mask that you can play or a character that you could perform as. No, because it's true about you.
What does masculinity mean to you?
Wow, that's a beautiful question. And by the way, that question is not an easy question to ask because for masculine is an ideal that every man strives towards. It is an ideal that they integrate with themselves. Meaning if you were to abandon this, wear a tighter black t-shirt, whatever mold society tells you it is, which is exactly how it's not. It is connected to by you integrating yourself towards that. And so now, of course, the masculine terminology, it's being connected to the masculine aspect of a man is one that is connected to the part of him that can be a leader. And it's a leader beyond his own hubris. It's a very difficult thing to channel. There's a tremendous amount of capacity in relationship to it. And on top of there being a tremendous amount of capacity, there's a tremendous amount of empathy. So to truly be able to protect and provide, beyond so much just the physical, means that you have to have an understanding and a connection to the beauty that you do protect and provide for. So now this is where it leads to the other part of it, which is truly masculine and feminine are not separate entities. They were collective and they still are. They exist across nature, even in this conversation, in the dialogue. It is something you cannot remove. When we start understanding that as men, we are human beings, and as women, we are human beings. Collectively together, it's the masculine and feminine. And what is that in representation of? That is in representation of the divine, and it's the aspect of ourselves that if
So
we
you're
could
saying
tap
masculinity and femininity together is representing the divine?
Yes, and divine being
But
the
that's
purest part
like,
of ourselves.
and you came to that conclusion from what?
So, my conclusion?
Yeah, you came to that conclusion from where?
It's
Like that masculinity and femininity concluded is the
Because
divine.
I have a system of values.
I can see it like with the ocean, ebb and flow. I can see it with night and day, if you want to explain like that. I could see it with man and woman. I can see it. But this could also be yin and yang represented.
Of course.
This could be all of those things. So, but then still having that idea, that concept in our minds and trying to chase a concept.
Well, I'm totally with you. So now here's the thing that I'm trying to say. This isn't a concept. This isn't something you're trying to chase. It's something that is designed to pull out. Because, compulsions, humanity is not.
What you're saying is that it's our true nature. And if we get out the way, it's automatically, naturally would be expressed by us.
As a man would be masculine and as a woman would be feminine. If you got out of your own way.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I don't say that theory is right or wrong.
Because, for a woman that wasn't really given recognition for her femininity is going to seek masculine game in order to dominate there to get recognition as a woman. You see?
Okay.
And that's the insecurity. But also the importance of being able to understand that we have to see how life has affected us, right? And that's why I think the awareness part's most important. I don't think that people just immediately throwing on a label or trying to strive towards a thing is going to help them in any way. I think it's more about really trying to connect to the deepest part of ourselves that's in the image of that as a man and as a woman.
Yeah, I just want to take it from like theoretical in this conversation to like practical. I think everybody can be a leader
Absolutely.
in their own life
Beautiful.
and creating things. But I don't choose these things because I'm like, I need to express this masculinity.
No, it's because it's authentic about you. So that's what I was trying to say, that if something remains true.
Yeah, but you have the theory that underneath that expression in a woman would be more feminine naturally, and that expression would be in a man more masculine. Now, to me, it doesn't fucking matter.
I'm talking about authentic nature, right?
Yeah, but to me, it only matters what works for people. Like what works practically.
I don't care about challenge the absolute hell out of that.
I don't care about the theory.
Have you ever had somebody completely and totally hide behind a narrative of that?
But that doesn't work for that person. That's a fake working for that person. It's a fake
in the truest way possible.
For the
world.
world.
I agree with you. That the true individual is somebody that found how it works for them and allows them to thrive.
Yeah.
Yes, and so that's we're on the same page here.
To me, though, there's like an over stimuli, a big wave, a tsunami of theoretical things that people get addicted to. Like, for example, from Jordan Peterson or other people with lots of labels, lots of concepts, but really that turns into another self-help addiction because people don't like
trying to get
their.
them addicted. What are you
Wait.
doing?
Give me 1 second.
I'm teasing.
Okay. People want to get rid of uncertainty. They don't like the feeling of uncertainty. And they think that with these teaching, they think that with these concepts, they can get control, they can get the right way to live, the right rules to live, but really it's just another way of trying to be perfect so they don't get hurt. So they're collecting these labels, they're collecting
totally correct. It's the self-help masturbation, but they're still fundamentally running the thing at the core that they have not established, which is, if I stop trying to fix myself, then maybe I'm not the problem, and it's my job to live my life and to experience myself as I am and do the best that I can. There is no secret. So
Naftali, you gotta let me talk out.
Go for it. I don't want to interrupt you. I think that you're opening up something very beautiful.
Okay, so let me talk.
Continue.
People like to stand outside the field, the playing field of life, and trying to collect data and theories from other people that they see as leaders and gurus, to try to get a manual, to try to not get hurt, to try to get control and safety, which actually shows the brain that you are more vulnerable, so to say, or more in a dangerous position, which makes the brain freak you out more and give you more addiction to watch another video, to this and that. But really what gives the most, in my eyes, and we can totally disagree, but in my eyes, in my knowledge, in my depth of my soul, I know that the most spiritual growth a person can have is moving forward in uncertainty in the direction of their passions and excitements. That's not to be mistaken, and this is where a lot of people went, oh, passions, excitement, and cocaine, and this. No, that's not even close to it. Those drugs and everything, those are compulsions. I'm talking your true passions and excitements, your true love that you want to give to yourself, that you want to give to others. But moving forward, creating the things that give value in the world, like this podcast, like sharing on social media, like building something, a beautiful building, like Elon Musk having X to give people freedom speech. Like there's endless music examples. And the brain is telling you, no, we're not ready yet from the trauma and past. No, we're not good enough. And you're like, yes, brain, I can have these thoughts and I move forward anyway. And along the way, something will unfold, like a knowing, where you're like, oh, this works for me, and I can experientially feel life around me step by step more, and I have more of an awareness what works. And I appreciate your philosophy and things if it helps practically. I just always here want to bring it back to practicality, what helps humans to live more of their lives instead of being reactive to their patterns, their emotions and thoughts and their trauma. You see?
You know, like existentialism without being rational is more conversation to help people cope with things that they don't want to experience. And I think you made this very beautiful. And it's if you could really reduce things to its simplicity, to its practical, which is what I'm all about. If you want to go out and experience the existential in every direction possible, it's fun, it's great, I love it. It's why I enjoy speaking where I speak from. And maybe people like seeing how much fun I have. Maybe that's what they're watching, you know? And what really makes it beautiful is that you could reduce it. That you can come back to an understanding of what exactly was that all about. And I think that you did that great. And that's the point of conversation. And you said it very simply. People would much rather find things that allow them to feel that they're having this, I guess, illusory kind of security than develop faith in their life and connect to the things that keep them alive. I've noticed this even from growing up very religious, is that a lot of the time, yeah, people do gain a lot of that. It hits a part in their brain that allows them to feel like they're making progress. You know, hey, I'm learning something, I'm absorbing information. And you could even say that, you know, there's something very habitual about that, but also internally self-destructive. There's a disconnect from another aspect of humanity. Like, if I have a client in front of me, one of the most important things is to see how much they use their head and how much they feel their emotions. And then how much what they present is a form of protection. And then also how much of who they are is to create distance from what they really feel.
So what I noticed helps actually people the most is to take their little child, their brain, into the situations they want to grow, because that builds trust. To move forward, not trying to get confidence first, not trying to get rid of the insecurity and get confidence, because by you trying to fix the insecurity, the brain's like, oh, you love fixing insecurity, let me just give you more insecurity. What I notice what really helps people most is have the insecurity and take themselves anyway to create content, to go to the martial arts class, to do those things, because then you get used to, this is how you show yourself trust, and you do this over and over and over again. And the little child's like, oh, we're okay. This is fine. And this is how you progress. This is how your brain changes. Your brain changes by showing your brain, bringing it into these situations and showing it that this is okay. And the more you do it, the easier, probably for you too. You weren't, same thing with me. Making videos is now far easier than it was like years ago, you know? And speaking now authentic truth, the same.
Yeah,
right.
And having conversation was very difficult too.
Yeah,
a lot scared me. Something I don't think I've shared this. Maybe I shared this with you when we were talking on our first call. Is that all the money that I made in training when I had my previous fitness business, I spent not on just making the content, but getting a team to coach me, because nothing scared me more than speaking to a camera. Scared the shit out of me. Ever since I was younger, I see the camera, I'm like, like posturing, you see the photo, and you're like, oh God, right? And so I remember I was 21 years old, and I used to do fitness and stuff, and that kind of helps, taking photos. And when I realized that a majority of the world has made the right turn to double down on the virtual platform, everybody was just like, this is it. This is our life. This is the way by which we will connect. I was like, if I really want to be effective in my coaching, I need to be able to speak to as wide and as far as I can. And I have to make sure that what I bring is real, because that's the only thing that will last in a world of endless consumption and production.
I like that.
And I remember I gave my brother a call. He does acting, production, and also does coaching for actors.
That's dope.
And I remember the first time I had this, and honestly, I would really love to share this with people now. This was not only difficult for me, this was the hardest thing that I ever did in my life. And I remember I asked my friend, hey, can I use your big mansion? Can I come by and film some content? And I was going to do my first batch of content. I was putting on the suit, I was doing the things, and I was just, here's the lines, and of course you put it up. And then, I was never using social media as like, do people like me or not? It was purely for me. It unlocked more parts of me. And I realized, perhaps maybe my fear of these things were exactly what I needed to dive into to discover more of myself. My father was an actor. Why would I run from the camera? And as I started doing it, I'd really love to share it with people. They would really laugh to see how far I've come. And really, it actually wasn't actually how far I've come. It's how much I was willing to open up with myself. This is what you're seeing isn't so much progress in its linear form, but in it's unveiling aspects of myself that I've been deeply hiding so much because I've rejected every part of me. And so just being able to put it out just for the first part opened up so much. And so
that's amazing.
I just remember that first time I did that shoot, I was sweating and I was getting frustrated and I was cursing in between takes. And I said, just run it through. It's just fine. It's just enough. And the more and more that I did it, the less and less it existed. And honestly, the best thing I ever did in my whole life was that.
That's amazing. That's so important, and that shows the difference between people who succeed or not. They keep at it. They don't give up, and they don't say, oh, I need to get viral in the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, they work on what it does for them.
Yeah, the guy Psychack? He has like a YouTube channel.
Yeah, he's great.
He spoke on it was a podcast once. It was Fresh and Fit. He spoke on Fresh and Fit.
He was on Fresh and Fit?
Yeah, he was on Fresh and Fit.
Exciting.
He was on a lot of podcasts. But he said, when I started my YouTube channel, 0 subscribers, right? Started with 0. He was like, I'm gonna now make YouTube videos for 3 years. And after 3 years, I'm gonna look up and see what works or what didn't. People don't say, people don't have that attitude. People are like, no, I need to try this, or what if my parents say, oh, it doesn't work as much, and maybe they give up, right? But if you say, I just see this as a practice, as a process, and he became famous, by the way, after a year. And I like his content. He has a great YouTube channel. So, but the attitude
Have you met him? Have you met him personally?
No, I never met him. So I don't know personally how he is as a person, but I just want to give, and when I speak about people, I don't say like, oh, I fully endorse them. I think we can learn from everybody, and like this part of, I'm just gonna do this for a year now, because even the skills that we learned from making content.
Who you become
through it. Mm-hmm. Like how authentic you become, what you like, you learn it on the journey. You don't learn it before. There's this great analogy from Mark Freeman. Think of it like this, you stand in front of, life's like a national park, a huge national park. and there's like 9 paths in the national park, and it's closed, right? You're in front of it, and there's like a security guard. And you go up to the security guard, you're like, excuse me, security guard, can you tell me what's the best path for me to go in this national park? I need to know what's the right path for me.
This is good.
What's not where I don't get hurt and what's perfect for me to be successful and amazing. And the security guard's like, excuse me, sir, I actually never been in this park before. If you want to find out what's the best path for you, you have to go in and walk it. And you're like, no, you don't understand. I cannot walk. I might make a mistake. I cannot do this. I'm going to wait out here and think. I'm going to find clues out here for me to know what's the best experience I can have in this park. And you like out there in front of the park for like a year, you're kicking dust, you're trying to think. And after a year, you finally get up. You know what? Okay, security guard, just let me in the park. So you get in the park, you see like these 9 paths, right? And you're like, fuck. And you go the path all the way to the right. You go on the path and there's like a big mountain. You're like, I don't even know how to mountain climb, what I'm gonna do. But you're like, okay, I gotta take this path. And you just learn mountain climbing, months go by. After a year, you reach the top of the mountain. And you look down and you're like, okay, I just realized I don't really like mountain climbing, so this is not for me. So you go back down the mountain, you look in the second path, there's like a dinosaur, there's like a tiger, there's like a velociraptor, there's like typhoons, and you're like, okay, this path probably not for me. So you like go to the third path, and there's like a little mountain, you're like, I already learned mountain climbing, I just want to see what's behind the mountain. So you climb the mountain, you go behind it, there's like a beautiful river, there's like a boat. You're like, I never learned river riding, but I guess, okay, you go on it, you like fall a couple of times in water, but you get better at it, and now you know how to do this. And suddenly, you like make money by getting people around the river, from island to island, from village to village. You meet your soulmate, you learn this more, you find other things.
Or you're
and the
describing
clue
surrender.
of the story is just you find yourself on the path while living your life, not trying to read a book. Yeah, books can give us tools, but then we need to learn life experience, and it's the calibration. Oh, this didn't work, I fall down. Okay, this worked better. Algorithm, right? Oh, this hook worked better than this, but I tried it out and it worked, and this worked, and this didn't work as much.
You're describing something very, and I mean, I love your storytelling. Wow. Oh my God. I don't get that experience a lot, so thank you.
So I gotta say, the gist of it was the national park was by Mark Freeman, but I actually made up the additional, the mountain stuff and the paths. I made up to give more, because I do acting too, and I like to show things from a visual and entertaining way. Storytelling is like, since the dawn of time, is what human beings connected to, and the mimics on your face. So I like to give love through like expression and like storytelling, you know, because people understand it better.
The things that we want to do the least: fail, get rejected, and heartbreak.
And there's the most gifts in there.
Those are the things that you're going to do. If you are willing to face every one of those, like as if those were your pursuits, you'll get lost in the journey of life, and you'll be transformed by love when you experience it. And you were talking about a lot of like the kayak and the 9 paths in this forest, this theoretical forest. And I remember, and it's something very interesting, because I think a lot of people can really resonate with that. You know, in my life, it was, I mean, I had revelations, you know, I had a personal intuitive guidance, you know, but your intuition is cut off for a long time, right? And you can't even be like, hey, this feels right. And not everybody can say that, so you need to be willing to pick a path.
Yeah.
Pick a path. And
I think we should talk about intuition as well, yeah.
Oh my God, intuition. I mean, this is the generation where you need discernment and intuition, because more people have mass than you could imagine. If you're disconnected from your emotions and your feelings, you're pretty much inviting predators and liars.
Yeah, you can only get manipulated by people if you're reactive to emotions and thoughts. Because if I make you guilty and you react to the guilt, right? I had many clients like,
wow, that's deep.
Yeah,
that's dark.
Well, it's kind of the whole theory. For example,
like
if
shame,
you know,
a lot of people like shame.
If you know, what's his name? The 48 Laws of Power, Robert Greene, right? None of this works on me. Even though they say it works on everyone. It can only work on you if you are reactive to emotions and thoughts, and you're not proactively acting on your values. What happened?
I was just going to light up another one.
Okay. Yeah, take your time. So if you you cannot know your intuition if you're a slave to your brain, because you think it's your intuition, but you just constantly move back and forth. Oh, this must be my soulmate. I have all these emotionally addictive feelings.
Have you ever met your soulmate?
Huh? I don't think there's one soulmate.
Interesting.
I think that's crazy talk. I think that's another story that people then lose themselves.
They lose themselves in, and they forget the journey of life.
Yeah, I think there could be many. I like that I never heard anybody saying the very rich line. That's
very
a cool,
rich.
unique, that's a cool, unique line. Yeah, I never heard it. I think there's many soulmates that you can have along your life, and but having the scarcity and saying, oh no, there's this one. And how do you know that's the one? It's just you're emotionally addicted. You're like, this must be the person because I'm so scared of losing them. Yeah. And we met on this day, and my cousin only they're putting a confirmation story together.
Your confirmation bias. Yeah. The worst thing I ever did.
I mean, many people do that.
Everybody
right?
does that, and it's very bad because it's like 1A, you're putting this above the freedom of your own life, and you're also holding yourself by a condition. And of course, I promise you, it's not your insecurities. The idea of the one is such a comforting idea for a lot of people, and
it's also for control and safety, right?
Yeah, you're coming back to this one thing which I really love that you keep drilling in this conversation, even for me, because I'm here to in a lot of ways just be able to tell.
I think it's a great conversation we're having.
Well, actually, excellent.
Yeah,
you keep going back to the things that people are the most afraid of. In one sentence, is to live their life like as if they don't know.
Live your life. That's my biggest message. You want to hear my biggest message? Live your life is the best exposure therapy. Live your life. You don't have to go to...
Scariest thing in the whole world.
Yes, and things will come up.
It's actually one of the things I do when a lot of people come in
and you let them burn.
But just like what you were saying, I started creating limitations in my life. I could no longer be created to you wouldn't have seen this in my office a year ago. Fuck no.
Oh, you mean the mask? I wouldn't have seen the mask a year ago here?
No, not at all. This conversation wouldn't have went the same way.
I love it.
I would have been thinking about, okay.
Show you it's time after
all right. Get that.
You can put it on all over here so everybody sees the journey. You don't have to get ready first.
You know what? We'll continue having the conversation. You're right. I'm not going to postpone anything. We're going to just let them see it.
Yeah. People want to see the journey of putting things on as well, not the ready.
So this was actually really interesting.
This is so cool.
Very, very...
Oh, this is the heart.
This is part of surrendering. One of the things that's changed my life was playing characters. Mm-hmm. And you were talking about, what's your relationship with playing characters? You're an actor, so whether you like it or not, you're interacting with an art form.
Yeah.
And children do this all the time. They adopt alter egos. Now people, it's part of personality development, right? But also there was something so interesting I realized about this. If you can experience the feeling of what it's like to be the character, you could experience something outside of your own compulsions, your traumas, your fears, your insecurities. And you want to know the beautiful part? Well, hold a second, I need to fucking put this in here first. You can genuinely have fun, like a kid would. And this is something.
This should be like the beginning of our podcast. You cut it like maybe in the beginning. This is so great.
Here we go.
And now people see more like what your excitement is, part of your true excitement. That's something that you resonate with.
You talked a lot about the inner child work.
It's like what we resonate with. What we are like when you share yourself something. I love the book Dating by Models by what's his name? The guy who wrote the Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. Mark Manson. He wrote Models, and in Models he talks about polarizing is actually being yourself. And the more polarizing you are in the world,
the more you attract
and
what's
being yourself, the same tribe, the same people, the dating, the girls, etc. And you being like on a date, like unapologetically, I love Iron Man. I have an Iron Man suit at home. Like that confidence, that authenticity is so attractive.
Hey Jarvis, close the suit.
That is so
this is the only thing I missed. Open the mask.
Yeah,
right? You're like, this is so good. I saw this immediately, and I said, I'm buying it. Just immediately. I said, what's your money for? Well, for buying Iron Man suits from China. The only thing
it's your excitement. Bashar talks about follow your excitement with no insistence on the outcome. And along the way...
Who?
Bashar.
Bashar.
He's a great speaker. He channels, actually. He channels an alien. Yeah. Check him out. He says, follow your excitement with no insistence on the outcome. He also says, you find more of yourself in uncertainty. And to follow your excitement, it might be like a woven, it might logically not make sense. But over time, you actually get faster to where you want to go by following your excitement. And that's something that helped me actually, and I incorporate it as a tool.
What does excite you? And by the way, how much that challenges us. You know how much that challenges us? Like your passion, your desire. You know what the thing I was the most afraid of?
The patterns are going to come up. They're going to come up.
This.
And then you can let them burn. You accept them and you keep moving forward.
And you can let
and
them
that's
burn.
how you balance yourself out.
Said. Beautifully said.
That's how automatically, look, why when you eat a strawberry, right? I'm gonna show this physically actually here. Because I have a strawberry. So imagine, do you like strawberries?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, all right. So both of us here have a strawberry, right? And when we eat it now, I eat it with the stem.
Yeah,
I got used to it.
You're a true hippie. I'm learning.
When we eat it, we probably don't go to our body, to our stomach and be like, hey stomach, today I'm gonna tell you where we put the strawberry. I'm gonna go inside this body and I'm trying to put it to this bloodstream or here, and your stomach's gonna be like, what the fuck? No. I've done this for you for 20, 30 years, whatever it is. I am really good buddies with all the organs, the liver, the bloodstreams. I'm really close with the heart. I know exactly, you don't even know what an enzyme is. I know exactly where these things go. If you would go into your body, you'd probably hurt yourself. You like go into and try to put the strawberry somewhere, right? We know intuitively in life that we can leave this digestion alone. The intelligence of our body is bringing the strawberry perfectly to the cells that it needs, right? Mm-hmm. So why the fuck do we learn that we need to interfere with our thoughts and emotions? Why are we going up here?
Well, that's partially, I mean, there's a very, very deep reason for that. Absolute aimlessness in your life will do that. Meaninglessness in your life will do that. A disconnect from your humanity will do that.
No, but it's the trying to fix up here, the trying to fix thoughts and emotions because you're trying to get relief is what creates all the mental health problems.
So the fixation itself on the problem rewards people for their neurotic problems and they don't even know it.
The fixing, the trying to get relief, the trying to fix those emotions. Let's say anxiety. The more you fix anxiety, eventually it goes to depression. The more you avoid living your life because of anxiety, that will lead to depression because you're killing your support systems. You're killing your relationships. You're killing your self-trust to move forward in your life. And if you all the time, no, I avoid, I don't want to go out anymore. I don't want to talk to people anymore. You're not going to do your podcast
experience
anymore.
That a lot with people?
Yes, all the time. And once they start, I just had Mana, who's in my group coaching. She had depression for 30 years. She did group coaching with me and I'm not saying that it always is this fast, but she did group coaching with me for now 6 weeks. For the last 3 weeks, she's been depression-free for the first time. It's because she, instead of sitting on the couch and listening to, oh no, my body feels heavy, I'm not supposed to go out there to the gym, etc., she kept going, she kept fighting, and guess what? She got rewarded.
Well, because she had no beliefs to it. It's called bypassing, right? For example,
it's not bypassing because she's accepting the emotions and thoughts.
Well, okay, so then that's much better. Then in that case, I rest my point.
People always throw this at me. Oh yeah, you're talking about suppressing. I never said suppressing. But there's 3 things. There's suppressing, there's expressing, but we're talking about the balanced middle line, which is accepting. But accepting means you have to be okay with the uncomfortable emotions. Go ahead.
Accepting.
Yeah, accepting.
That's a very big one because when people hear the word acceptance, what do they conclude? This is the way it is. I guess I can't change it. And that's exactly the lie. It's like, this is what transforms.
But we don't only sit on the couch accepting emotions. We actually set the valued actions proactively, and then along the way, all these emotions come up, and we accept them. We let them burn. We don't interfere.
So
and you want to see it as something positive. You want to see it as, I'm doing like a workout. I'm doing something good here. I want to practice. Emotional fitness. I'm going to have this emotion, and I'm going to move forward. I'm going to have this anxiety. This is fine. You don't try to change it. If it changes, it changes. You don't try to get... And even with this practice, even if you say, okay, I'm doing this what Star says. I'm doing this what Star says. But did my emotions change yet? checking on them. They're still checking on the emotions. They're still not doing the practice because they still want the outcome of the emotions to change.
So what
you
would
need
you
to
say?
You need to completely change the measure of success from the emotional addictive engine, trying to fix emotions, trying to get relief, to the valued action engine. And paradoxically, what's going to happen along the way, you will have a better relationship with your emotions because you're leaving them alone and they can balance themselves out,
Well,
and you
isn't
build
that
emotional
beautiful?
fitness.
And I think this is exactly the fundamental value that we both share, is that there isn't a rejection of humanity.
That's
There's an
right.
acceptance of your
That's right.
humanity and a transcendence of it in relationship to your values.
That's right.
That's so interesting, man. We come from completely different terminologies. We communicate.
But this is why this conversation is so great.
Yeah, it's really because I was thinking about it. You know, it's like, okay, you want to change the world, and I think people want to at least be able to change as many people as they can in their life, especially if they can. How about this? Help people come closer to themselves, and create the most truthful thing that they can.
I want to help people live their life. If that means they come closer to themselves, probably, yeah, because they live their life. They live the things that
Beautiful.
they want to do.
No, I mean, yeah, I could see that you're really detached from an ideology that you reinforce on them. You really want them to connect to the part of them that's most true, and that helps serve them the most in their life. And there's a lot of humility in that too.
And I want to give it to them practically. That's why, for example, I do the emotional fitness meditation where they sit down, let the emotions burn, let the thoughts do what they want to do. They don't talk back. We cannot control the thoughts that come inside of our heads, but we can control if we talk back. Our power is our focus. So they focus on their breath, let the emotions, the thoughts say whatever they want to say, let the emotions, don't interfere, let them burn, and focus on their breath is a direct practice. It's like a direct, like those
What would you say you struggle
Navy
with?
SEALs ground.
Yeah.
It's like a practice to live in real life. Because in real life, there's anxiety coming up, there are emotions coming up, and you focus on and you either avoid things because of them, or try to fix them, or try to get a girlfriend because of the loneliness out of it, or try to do this and that. Or you can have those uncomfortable feelings and go to the valued action. That's why practically training the meditation.
And I even had that myself. It was allow yourself to feel sadness.
Yeah. These are
And
patterns.
it was like,
These are not us.
well, and it's like, and then my coach would tell it to me again. He's like, allow yourself to feel sadness. And I would realize how much resistance I had to it. And I said, what is the problem with me accepting? And it wasn't just sadness, actually. This is what it was. He said, I want you to accept something about your nature, that you are very soft, and you're very sensitive, and you're very playful. And I was like, well, what are the implications of that, right? And I was just so much resistance in that. And it was just, accept the aspects of me that are soft and sensitive. And it was almost interesting, just in the acceptance process, I noticed it coming out more. It was no longer being hidden. And then, of course, when it was no longer being hidden, there was no underlying anxiety. There was an aspect of me that was more open. I'm almost more curious about what happens in conversation, how things go. That curiosity makes me more present. And the more present I am, the more channeled I am to the thing that I really kind of want to give that's actually useful. My dad told me this one quote, I really loved it. My dad was a professional singer, singer-songwriter, musician. I think you're gonna find this one interesting. And it's called The Science of Mind. My dad, he kept having sore throats, and very similar to me. I never used to have sore throats until I started speaking professionally. No coincidence, of course, time to reflect on your message. My dad, when he was about 25, he'd get stressed out. He's like, I have to play this gig, I got a sore throat, and if I'm not on my A game, then I'll fail to deliver. And so this priest of sorts comes up to my dad and he says, hey, who's doing the singing? And my dad smiled for a second and he realized, he was like, if it's not me, then it's something that I'm connected to that's beyond me. That's doing the talking. That's doing the singing. And then the priest responded to him and he said, because if it's you, I'll just pack my bags.
It's a form of surrender, right?
It's a form of surrender. And so isn't that very beautiful? It is. You even caught me a little bit in the psycho terminologies and all of the things, and you're like, whoa, 1 second, this is the beauty of conversation. How can you get people to really understand the fundamental things that bring us all together as human beings, that allow us to live our life, to experience the divine dialogue that sets us free? And that's the idea of surrender. And I had that myself. I kept getting sore throats. I have to speak at this gig. And I realized, if this is really a gift, I could do it sick. And I showed up to 3 podcasts in a row, and they're like, wow, what your voice? I'm like, I'm dying. But it's beautiful to be able to intentionally, and this is, I think, the most beautiful thing, if you're going to be on that forest, if you're going to be in that national park, if you're going to be stepping into the unknown, just remember the intention of discovering who you are in the process, not being so attached to what surrounds you. And then you climb the rock and you see what's become.
Step into the uncertainty.
Step into the uncertainty.
Uncertainty is life.
I love that. Uncertainty is life.
Yeah. And we're trying to control it. But the less we control it, I think the more beautiful it can be. And we can experience us in the progression and find out about us. But if we stay in here trying to control, we take away a lot of the gifts.
Yeah, it takes
you know?
And then, when you take away a lot of the gifts, I guess you...
And the exploration. Like, people get better at exploring. Like, when I made the alien videos, right? Maybe you've seen my alien videos.
No, yeah, you're far
And
out.
other videos where I'm like, oh, I'm exploring this, and I'm getting better. I'm doing characters now, etc.
That's really beautiful, man.
And then we can be more free and open.
Well, you also connect with the intuitive, empathetic part of you. And I think you would really like this for men if they ever feel bad that somebody can address them as having feminine characteristics. But the alpha chimpanzee has twice the testosterone of the average chimp and 3 times the empathy of the matriarchal chimp of the tribe.
So the alpha has more empathy
than the matriarchal chimp, meaning the top-notch mother of the troop.
Interesting.
And so I think a lot of the time people think that the most masculine man...
I think good leaders have a lot of empathy.
A deep connection to
must
the
for their
feminine
people.
Essence. Absolutely.
Right?
In order to be truly in protection of what's valuable as a man, you have to be connected to that within yourself to identify it.
Because if you're just self-obsessed, how are you going to lead your people? Because a good leader is only there to give good to their people. And how can you be a good leader if you don't have empathy for what your people are going through? Because if not, you're always speaking narcissistically, self-obsessed about me. No one likes that.
I mean, it's the difference between the cult leader and an actual one is that the actual leader is not, he doesn't claim that he knows every single answer to every problem.
Yeah.
He himself is in connection to something that's leading the people behind him. I want to see a little bit more of you here. What do you struggle with?
What do I struggle with? I don't know if I ask myself that question so much because I don't know if that's such a useful, I don't think it's a useful question for me. What I do more is I focus on what I want to grow. I go in that direction, and then along the way, if even saying emotions or thoughts or struggles come up, if you would call them like that, I just try to accept them. I had OCD very strong for 11 years. 5 hours, 6 hours a day, I couldn't really live my life. My family was worried about me, everything. And I couldn't find the solution. I was looking ambitiously. And all the specialists, the nowadays therapists and OCD, most therapists and psychologists, I promise you, don't know what they're doing. And the reason is because they only regurgitate information from university.
Not from experience.
Exactly. They didn't change their brain themselves. So they couldn't help me. They just regurgitated what they heard from university. And that's exactly like a person, you used to be, I think, a personal trainer, right? That's exactly like a personal trainer who read every book about training, but never actually trained a day in their life. They never squatted, they never did bench press, they never did pull-ups. How good at a trainer are they going to be? How good is a tennis coach who only read all the books about tennis, but never stepped on a tennis court and played tennis?
There's one thing that I believe that we both really, really resonate with here, which is go out and live.
Yeah.
That'll change your life.
Don't try to get ready to live. Yeah, it's good to see tools, but then try them out. And don't wait outside the playing field and try to be perfect first and find the perfect camera, find the perfect things, for perfect technique. Try to heal your trauma first. You're going to make your trauma inactive when you don't react, because your trauma is the thing that tells you, oh, I need to read another book, another self-help addiction, another thing. You need to have those uncomfortable emotions and just move forward in the playing field, play the game of life.
Mr. Starr,
Naftali?
what a fucking time.